My name is Jackson, I'm a vegan, and I struggle with disordered eating. I want to share with you guys my journey and struggles with eating over the last 3 years. Eating disorders and exercise addictions and just body dysmorphia in general is not something that only happens to women. I think women are a lot more comfortable on YouTube and on social media platforms talking about this because it probably does happen statistically, maybe a little more in females than in males, but it is still a huge issue and a normal thing for guys to go through, to have body image issues and to have sometimes in parts of life, a bad relationship with food and exercise. So hopefully by me sharing my struggle and my journey, I can help you or maybe your friends, family, anyone that needs this that you can share this with in order to bypass some of those struggles and maybe come to more of a place of health and love and self-love and just holistic lifestyle practices rather than attaching yourself to your body in the way that I did growing up. So in 2011, I decided to not go straight to college after high school and take a gap year, take a full year off to experiment and enjoy life and have enriching, crazy adventures. And it was freaking awesome. I rode my bicycle across the United States is the first thing that I did. And on that trip, if you've exercised before, doing that amount of cardio, you can eat whatever the hell you want. You're gonna still lose weight in the process, and you feel amazing. Your endorphins, it's like taking drugs all day. You are just pumping out your system and you feel so good. And when I got back from that trip, I lost that feeling of endorphins that I was getting every day, because after 81 days of biking, 70 to 90 miles a day, I decided to rest when I came home, and I definitely got into a little emotional, slight depression rut. I didn't feel as good. I wasn't biking all of that time, so my sort of dopamine hit of cardiovascular exercise wasn't coming to me anymore, and it sucked, and I didn't like it. At that time too, I kept eating as much as I was before because why not? I was still really hungry. I just biked across the country, and during that time is the first moment in my life when I realized a few months later I wasn't exactly happy with my physical appearance. Now I'm very lucky. I have never dealt with being overweight in my life. I don't think I've ever been overweight in my life, but I was starting to get a little soft in areas that I wasn't before, and I was 19 at this point, and I didn't like it. It made me uncomfortable. After that trip, I decided to go travel in Southeast Asia, in Borneo, Indonesia for most of that time, and I was living in a jungle rural village. It was amazing, and I noticed that these people I was with, they were so fit and healthy, and they were uneducated. They had no Western medicine, but they seemed to be doing pretty good. And the only thing that I could identify different than maybe the standard American lifestyle compared to these people was diet. We were eating fruit and rice 3 times a day, every single day, and they were lively, they were fit, they were strong, and they were healthy. And that's the first time, I had been a vegetarian before, but it was mainly just ethical reasons. I thought meat was probably bad, it made me sad, but I still ate grilled cheese and candy and beer and all of this junk food. But on that trip in Asia was the first time that I started to get interested in food and diet and fitness and all of this stuff. And after coming home from my trip to Asia, I started to educate myself, and I started to read and watch documentaries, and thankfully I was exposed to a lot of vegan information from Forks Over Knives and the China Study and Caldwell Esselson's books, Engine 2 Diet, and I started to consume all of this information around a high-carb, vegan, low-fat, healthy lifestyle, and I took it to heart. The nutritional information that they give and in their books is writing nutrition plans for usually adults or elderly people who are trying to defeat a terminal chronic disease like heart disease or cancer. And when I read this information, like never eating any oil and eating a low-fat diet, not eating any processed foods and not eating much flours and just going whole food plant-based, instead of taking that information in and being like, I should model my diet off of this, for some reason, maybe it's because I was young, I was 19 years old, I figured that I needed to follow this nutritional plan 100% or all hell was gonna break loose. And if I had a drop of oil, I was gonna get fat all of a sudden, and if I ate flour, it's not as nutrient dense as a whole food, so I'm gonna get sick. And I'm not saying that these incredible influential educators who have changed my life forever and who I look up to, like Colin Campbell, Caldwell Esselstyn, Jeff Novick, all these people, I'm not saying that they're here to brainwash you to eat super healthy and ultimately give you an eating disorder, pretty much like what happened to me. But I'm saying that you always need to take nutritional information, quote unquote, with a grain of salt, I guess, and not be too hardcore with it, because here's what happened to me. It was the end of my gap year. I decided to go vegan. I hiked the John Muir Trail, which is a 225-mile backpacking route in the Sierras. Obviously, very cardiovascularly intensive. I lost about probably 15 pounds on that trip. I think I started at maybe 155 or 60 pounds before, during my gap year. I'm 6'2", and when I came home from that trip, I was about 148 pounds or 45 pounds, and my parents were like, whoa, you're looking pretty light. And I had started to get into diet nutrition a couple weeks before, and was starting to exercise a lot, and I started to lose weight. I quickly went to the Rhode Island School of Design right after that trip to start my freshman year of college, which I transferred out of here to Colorado College, where I am now. But at RISD is when things started to get really intense. I started to over-exercise, and I was biking and running every single day, sometimes twice a day. It was the combination of over-exercising, not giving myself rest days, and also not allowing myself to enjoy food unless I punished myself before. I would not eat a meal or enjoy a meal unless I had exercised previously. And I would eat breakfast. I definitely kept it in portion control. I would make a smoothie bowl with like bananas and berries and all of this stuff, but I would keep it in this one little container, and even if I was hungry, I would never let myself eat more than this. And then I would go to class. I'd bring some snacks during class, but I would literally go into the bathroom or into the hallway before it was 10:30 to eat my snack and bust out some push-ups, because I didn't think I deserved to eat that food unless I had put out a few calories in the hallway of exercising. Thinking about it now, I see how much of an issue it was and how it took over my life and how much of a negative thing it was, but that's I couldn't feel good about myself if I didn't do that. Who knows why? I mean, I grew up in a happy family that loved me, that never told me, I had body image issues. Moving along, now we can see a few months into my school, I had no social life. I didn't have many friends. I refused to eat at a restaurant or a cafeteria. Like, 100% I was making my own food. Reflecting on it, I was actually eating a lot of food. It's not like I was eating 1,000 calories a day. There's no way. It's just my eating disorder has always been paired with an exercise disorder, and I think a lot of people just assume exercise is good. Going on lots of runs, spending a lot of time in the gym is good, but the relationship I had with it was not healthy. Taking runs in the morning and then busting out pull-ups and push-ups in the evening time, sometimes it's too much and you can take it too far, and you have to find a balance. So a few months into my freshman year, I decided I wanted to transfer out of that school, but I was like 140 pounds, 6'2", almost no friends. I didn't even have a social media presence back then. I didn't have a vegan community there, but ultimately I wasn't happy. I don't think I was very nice to my friends or family. Some of my friends stopped hanging out with me. 2 years I spent over-exercising, under-eating, and my weight was that low, and I had zero sex drive. I mean, nothing. So I was at a low point. I didn't really know what to do anymore. My family was pissed off at me that I refused to eat at restaurants. Things were pretty much crumbling in a way, and I had an illusion for about 2 years that it was fine, that I was actually doing all right, but it's not the case. I had an issue. And here's how I resolved it. In the fall of 2013, I was here at Colorado College, and I had gotten into yoga. And again, I used yoga in the beginning parts as a total exercise, over-exercise disorder thing. I would go to classes where I would just sweat bullets and do all these crazy postures and burn a bunch of calories. That's how I got into yoga. And I was at this studio here in Colorado Springs called Pranava Yoga Center. And they taught yoga there. They taught what yoga really means, that it's a practice of loving yourself so that you can love other people. And this was my first exposure to a spiritual practice like this. And a few months practicing into Pranava, they were offering a yoga teacher training. And I was like, you know what? I'm practicing yoga 7 days a week. I really love it. I love the community. I'm gonna become a teacher. I'm gonna go through this training program. And guys, yoga changed my life, and yoga beat and destroyed and killed my eating and exercise disorder. It was incredible. Taking workshops, reading books like the Bhagavad Gita and the Ramayana and these spiritual ancient Hindu texts, and the community that was built at Pranava Yoga Center. These people, from women in their 60s to young people my age, just loving each other and meditating together and touching each other's hearts and getting into weird funky postures together. Something happened where I started to love myself more, regardless of if I had taken a run that morning or regardless of my eating schedule, where before I would judge myself based on those things, food and exercise. And I realized I started to just become a little happier being me. And we got a workshop from a man named Craig Weiss, but he's a cool yoga teacher who's a vegan, and he was jacked. This dude was ripped, he had nice big muscles, and I loved how he looked. And at this point, I was still my weight, 140 pounds. I wasn't eating at restaurants. I was making all my own food. I was still in the disorder portion of my life. And when I saw him, I was like, dude, you gotta help me out. You've done it. You're a yogi, you're vegan, and you got all this muscle mass. I want to be like you. Can you help me? He happened to be the nicest, most generous dude I've ever met. He said, yes, I'll help you. I'll give you your workout routine. I'll tell you how to eat. So what he did was he put me on a plan where I was eating pretty much as I possibly wanted to of, healthy, whole vegan foods. And I was only working out 3 days a week. This was like, oh my God, I thought my life was gonna be over. I thought I was gonna get totally fat, but I was like, look, this guy knows what he's talking about. He looks good now, I'm gonna listen to him. A few months later, literally 2 or 3 months later, I had gained 20 pounds. My sex drive was back. I was happy. I was loving my relationship with food. My social life was blossoming. And I think it was because the combination of meeting a mentor that could help me out, learning about YouTube and hearing other people's stories, and also becoming a spiritual human being and having a yoga practice, it all came together and just popped this bubble that I had to define myself based on my appearance and by being skinny. The journey since then has been beautiful. Like 4 months into lifting, I was a lot stronger. I felt really good. I then went to the Woodstock Fruit Festival and decided I wanted to try a raw vegan diet. And what did my parents and my family and friends say? No, this is the eating disorder coming back into Jackson's life. He's gonna eat only fruit. Oh no, he's gonna go right back to where he was. But the opposite happened. Raw foods is also a huge part of why my transformation, I think, has been so great and has worked and beneficial. I ate a fully raw diet for 9 months. I gained more muscle mass and weight in that diet than ever before. I was eating in abundance. I was working out. My social community with Instagram and YouTube and social life here was going awesome. So it's not necessarily true that having a strict diet, like a raw food vegan diet, that doesn't necessarily mean you have an eating disorder. And I want to be firm about that, because eating healthy is something that you should have the choice to do. It's just when you start to get in exercise addiction and calorie restriction that a strict diet like that can be unhealthy, but you can also do it right. But something happened about 9 months into my raw diet where I was noticing that I'm an ethical vegan activist, and I don't like that people treat animals as food and think that they're objects that we can abuse and torture and eat, and it's messed up and it's wrong. And I want to change that. I want to get as many people as possible to eat compassionately. And what I noticed and realized was that eating a very strict diet like that meant that I was giving the guys in my gym and the peers at my school an image that veganism and eating healthy is something that is extremely hard. You need to have a lot of discipline, and you can't be normal. You can't go to a restaurant. You have to just go to a grocery store and eat 20 bananas all day. How many people are going to do that? Relatively in our world, almost nobody. Veganism is extreme for most people. Raw vegan, people just started thinking I was nuts and that they couldn't identify with me and get nutrition advice because they were like, I'm never going to be a fruitarian like this dude. So even though I loved the diet and it was really fun and I enjoyed it, there was so much abundance, I was the heaviest I've ever been. I was lifting the most weight I ever could. It's kind of crazy. Right now I'm like 180 pounds. I got up to 191 pounds. A lot of that even being fat. Not to say that eating fruitarian is gonna make you fat, but I was doing zero cardio and I was eating to the point of discomfort every day because I was afraid that if I didn't eat that much eating a raw diet, I wouldn't gain muscle. Whole crazy thing. But I decided last summer, only maybe 4 or 5, I think less than half a year ago, I decided that I wanted to become more of an approachable vegan, and I wanted to expand the variety of foods that I ate and not be strict about eating quote-unquote clean, high-carb, low-fat foods all of the time, because I wanted to relate with people and make veganism accessible and show that, look, I can be a healthy, happy, social, cool, successful, fit dude and eat a compassionate diet. And ultimately, the animals don't care whether you're eating a fruitarian diet or veggie burgers all day. They care that you're eating vegan. So that's what I decided to do. And that was a scary moment. And we don't have to be purists. My struggle in this whole journey with body image issues and over-exercising and eating disorder, it was all because I thought things were black and white. I thought things had to be 100% in order to work. And that's not the way life works. You gotta be flexible. You gotta go with the flow if you wanna accomplish all of your goals and tasks in life. And food is not everything, exercise is not everything. Eating strictly healthy all the time, a little moderation of going out with your friends and having a great time getting vegan ice cream like I have in tons of my vlogs recently, that's a part of a healthy lifestyle. It's not all about food. We need to go, as Rich Roll and Tim Van Orden say, we need to go beyond the kale. So I hope you guys got something out of this. I'm not saying that I know all the answers and that I've defeated all of my food issues. I just think I've gotten really far in the last year and I'm really proud of it. And hopefully by, giving out these vibes on my YouTube channel and my Instagram and my podcast about holistic, healthy lifestyle practices, about eating healthy, about loving yourself first and foremost, about exercising in a healthy manner, that hopefully we can all become the best versions of ourselves possible. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you like it, please give it a thumbs up, show some love and some support to people coming out and talking about this and trying to make the world a better place. You can subscribe to my channel right here. You can also check me out on iTunes, the Plantriotic Podcast. You can check me out on Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat. I'm putting out so much content for you guys. It's all at Plantriotic. Much love, everybody. Dream extreme.